Oh, Ethel, darling, you do look stunning. You look divine, darling.
Oh, Ethel, what is all this?
And during that time, I consider the years I spent on I Love Lucy to be perhaps the biggest rip-off of my career.
For decades, people believed the story that Vivian Vance had signed a contract requiring her to gain weight just to make Lucille Ball appear thinner on screen. But the shocking truth is that this was never real. It was a myth created by Lucy herself as a joke at a party. Somehow, that joke spread and stuck, and the world believed it for years. Yet the real story behind the cameras was far darker. Vivian endured struggles that few knew about. She came to work with visible bruises, including black eyes, and her relationship with her co-star William Frawley was so toxic that when he passed away, she actually celebrated with champagne. For decades, the entertainment industry worked to bury these painful truths. But now, the reality of Vivian's life, the thing she wanted the world to understand, is finally being uncovered. Vivian Roberta Jones, later known as Vivian Vance, was born on July 26, 1909, in Cherryvale, Kansas. Her childhood home was not filled with joy, but with rigid Methodist rules and a strict mother who believed acting was shameful. Her mother warned her that performing would lead her straight to hell. As the second of 6 children, Vivian always felt out of place in her own family. She loved entertaining and naturally lit up when given the chance to perform, but every spark she showed was quickly smothered by her mother's disapproval. To her mother, acting wasn't just frowned upon, it was considered sinful. This created constant battles within the home, as Vivian's spirit longed for freedom but was continually forced into submission. That conflict became embedded in her, shaping her struggles for years to come. When Vivian was 6 years old, her family moved to Independence, Kansas. It was there that her passion for performing truly ignited. She began sneaking out at night, not for mischief, but for freedom, for the chance to pursue her desire to sing, dance, and be on stage. At school, she finally found someone who believed in her. A drama teacher named Anna Engelman gave her the encouragement and space to grow. Vivian threw herself into cheerleading, beauty contests, and school productions. She even attended school with William Inge, who would later become a renowned playwright. But at home, nothing changed. Her family continued to try to crush her spirit. Friends began calling her Viv, a lighter, freer version of herself, no longer chained to her family's expectations. Eventually, she made a decision that transformed her life. She abandoned her family name. No longer Jones, she became Vivian Vance, choosing the surname after Vance Randolph, a man who collected old folk stories. Perhaps she saw herself reflected in those tales, wild, independent, and unafraid. Leaving Kansas for Tulsa, she pursued stages and opportunities, severing ties with her family. She was no longer her mother's daughter. She belonged to herself. By 1930, at just 21 years old, Vivian became one of the very first performers at the Albuquerque Little Theater. On that stage, she portrayed roles as different as a seductive woman and a devout nun, representing the duality of her own life. Her performances were so memorable that people jokingly nicknamed the theater the Vivian Vance Playhouse. The community rallied around her, even holding a benefit performance to raise money so she could pursue her dreams in New York. In one of those shows, she performed the song My Man and became a local star. Everything she had once been told was shameful was now the very thing paving her future. With only $50 and a suitcase, Vivian took a train to New York City. She worked as a waitress during the day while auditioning tirelessly at night. Rejections came often, and at times she skipped meals to afford subway fare. But she persisted, and finally, in 1932, she landed her first role as a chorus girl in Music in the Air, a Broadway musical that ran for 2 years. This was her first real breakthrough. Bit by bit, people noticed her talent, her comic timing, her movements, her delivery. Slowly, the anonymous chorus girl was becoming a recognized performer. In 1937, she received a last-minute call to replace an actress in a play called Hooray for What, and she ended up performing in over 200 shows. That opportunity led to her biggest Broadway role in 1941, starring in the hit musical Let's Face It alongside Danny Kaye and Eve Arden. Running for 547 performances, it cemented her as a Broadway star. But professional triumph didn't erase personal pain. While her career grew, her private life was unraveling. At 19, she had married Joseph Danek Jr., hoping marriage would provide escape from her strict upbringing, but he left after only 3 years. Later, in 1941, she married actor Philip Ober, but that marriage was far worse. Ober resented her success and became violent, physically abusing her. Even Lucille Ball, who would later become her co-star, noticed and openly called it out. Still, the damage was done. Vivian kept performing, but inside, she was breaking. By 1945, while touring with the play The Voice of the Turtle, Vivian suffered a breakdown. She admitted it herself, "Let's face it, I cracked up." The trauma of her childhood, the strain of her marriage, and the pressures of performing collided all at once. She entered therapy and remained in it for years, slowly rebuilding herself. This experience reshaped her life. She began visiting psychiatric hospitals, not as a celebrity making appearances, but as someone who understood the weight of suffering. She didn't try to fix anyone, she simply reminded them they weren't alone. Even while she kept working, the pain lingered. Though let's face it remained her greatest stage success, behind the applause were countless missed opportunities. After appearing in a 1947 revival of The Cradle Will Rock, she moved to California to try film acting. Hollywood, however, did not embrace her. She appeared in just 2 films, The Secret Fury in 1950 and The Blue Veil in 1951. She turned down one role, a risque striptease number, which later launched Mary Martin's career. She also lost a part in Carousel because a choreographer sought revenge by getting her fired. Setback after setback followed. Still, Vivian didn't give up. Then, in 1951, everything changed. At 42, she was cast as Ethel Mertz in I Love Lucy. For decades, rumors swirled about a contract that supposedly required her to gain 15 pounds to make Lucille Ball look slimmer. But that contract never existed. It was nothing more than a joke Lucy made at a party, complete with silly rules like gaining 5 pounds each week and never being funnier than her. Somehow, people believed it, and the false story lived on for years. In truth, Vivian's weight naturally fluctuated, as she was constantly dieting. And while Lucy may have wanted to appear more glamorous next to her, no such contract ever existed. Still, the myth became one of Hollywood's most famous legends. It's important to remember Vivian wasn't an unknown before I Love Lucy. She had worked on Broadway since the 1920s, even standing in for Ethel Merman in 2 Cole Porter musicals. By the early 1940s, she already had leading roles of her own. In 1951, she was performing in La Jolla, California, when Desi Arnaz and producer Jess Oppenheimer saw her and immediately hired her. But Lucille Ball herself wasn't thrilled. She looked at Vivian and complained, "You can't play Ethel."